episode 106. But before we get started and introduce our friend, a member of Team HGA, Randle Lee, Jason and I are going to do a quick reminder to everybody. We still have a few spots open, actually, for our boot camp, the first ever. Randle will be there as well. HGA boot camp in Dallas, Texas, April 4th and 5th. Yeah, there you go. So come join us. Very inexpensive. $300 gets you in, gets your room, board, food, a great time. We're a great hang. It's going to be full immersion, but it's still going to be a really, really awesome time. And we're going to have some really cool speakers, Randle being one of them, Jason, myself, Amy Myers from NGA as well. So who else, Jay? Who else is going to talk? Mark West, Team HGA. You're going to meet a lot of the folks from Team HGA that you may have never met in person.
Hey, Trevor, I'm going to time you out a second. I'm hearing a little feedback now.
I think there's speakers.
I think there's some kind of feedbacks picking up.
I think it's Randle's speakers, if I had to guess, but I could be wrong.
Oh, maybe. Let me see.
Don't have. Or maybe it's my microphone, but I don't think so. But anyway, could be wrong. But anyway, yeah. Hey, everybody, super easy. I don't hear it anymore. Super easy to find us. HGAfundraising.com. Click on the boot camp icon, and you can sign up there. And we'll be in contact with you immediately with an itinerary and directions on how to get there and all that good stuff. And all you got to do is get yourself there. We'll take care of the rest.
Well, and I wanted to say this is not the normal nonprofit, nonprofit organizational conference. This isn't going to be a thing where you're getting a bunch of commercial stuff and things. This is just full on real content about fundraising. Everything that you need to know front to back. A lot of things we talk about here, but really going in depth. Everybody's going to be there to help work with you. We're going to be breaking into groups and learning from not only just the presentation we're doing, but each other. And so it's a really full on deal. And it is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a party on Tuesday night. So it'll be good.
It's okay, but have more. We're going to have more. And we got, it's we have 50 spots and originally, and less than 10 available. So go ahead and sign up now, and we'll see you April 4th and 5th in Dallas. So just wanted to get that house cleaning stuff out of the way. But hey, episode 106 of the HGA free webinar series. Thanks so much, Randle, member of Team HGA. Decades of fundraising experience, a myriad of different roles that you've played. Jason, Ledlow, Trevor, Nelson, thanks everyone for being here. We're going to talk committees. Let's roll up our sleeves and talk committees. And that seems to be a real sticking point with a lot of folks. It's like, my committee, they're kind of, it's difficult to get the train moving sometimes. So we want to talk about encouraging our committees, obviously procuring the right committee members. Yes, we're going to talk about that, how to motivate them, and how to get the most out of our committees to drive forward, right? Because this isn't, we're all going in the same direction, or at least that's what the theory is, right? So we're ecstatic to have Randle on. He's going to share some really good information. Jason's been on committees, worked with countless committees. I've worked with.
And this is also going to apply to boards as well. I want to make sure everybody, 100%. This goes for both. It's just directing with a group. And I just want to say, one of the things I'm so excited about this, and what Randle's going to be talking about, and what he's can have such great experience share is, I've been a part of committees, and we're trying to get them motivated. And I've been the guy, I've been called in to ask about stuff, to say, man, we got to get our committee motivated. And, I come and give this emotional, spiel and everything. And that lasts, and everybody's ready to go, and we're going to go charge. And then next week comes and nothing's really happening. And so while that's really good to get that emotion going and to do that, to get people excited, there really needs to be more.
Yep.
And this is about how to take the emotion out of it and put motion into it.
Yep.
So I just came up with that, Randle.
Put
so
gasoline in there. Put some gasoline.
So without further ado, Randle Lee, and just, again, gosh, over 30 years of, working in all phases in the nonprofit world. He's done everything from, running chambers, national nonprofits, local nonprofits, worked on the political side of it. I think that's one of the most fascinating for me, just personally, is all of his experience with that. And, we'll do some stuff later on because, we all know that it's a political world we live in. And I don't mean that from a right, left, or anything like that. It's just that in our communities, not only local, and I'm talking not national, really more local and state, about how much that implores. So Randle has a tremendous amount of knowledge on that. So without any further ado, Randle.
Right on.
Well,
right.
And you can hear me okay?
Yes, you're
technology. Good. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just tell y'all,
no background noise.
Our joke around here is that, if Randle walks by the technology, it just breaks. So that's kind of our joke. I'm just telling you. So.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Jason. Thank you very much. Shameless plug. If you haven't signed up for Dallas, please do. I think we're going to have some great information. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the here and now, as opposed to some of the things we'll talk about at the boot camp, which is the planning and training and other aspects of fundraising of boards and committees. But a couple of 3 things that I'll start with today that I would want to bring you up. Number one, I'm sure all of you know, and many of you, this will be not a surprise, but there's three things that I've come upon that really have hindered fundraising in the past. That is, I don't want to ask my friends. I don't know anybody. And we can find somebody with a lot of money, and that's going to solve our problem. And you, as a goal-oriented person, typically you've got a goal in mind that you'd like to raise, or the board or committee has decided and agreed upon. And that will color your conversations with not only your committee, but your board director. And Jason and I talked about, and probably fear is the wrong word, but anxiety may be a better word, that we maybe tend to portray that even to our volunteers. So what I want to start with is there is a theory in communications called the theory of reciprocity. And all that simply means is you are communicated to as you communicate. Yes. So for example, if you've gone into a convenience store over the last few weeks or so, and you have seen somebody that's not really interested in providing you customer service, they just look at it as a job. They may have had something happen on the phone that has made them mad, or some other issue that they're dealing with. Well, that is modeled, if you will, to the customer. So what you'll typically find is if you go in and you're happy-go-lucky and you're met with resistance, I myself have had personal experience with, and unfortunately, I will say their name because they really still make me mad, Best Buy, which I found tremendously frustrating and angry about because of the way that they tended to look at me. Not as the customer's right, but we have these processes in place and we can never vary from those. So the theory of reciprocity simply means that you as the fundraiser need to, even if you don't feel like it, need to exhibit that passion that you have already for your mission, but make sure that you take a little bit of time before you talk to somebody about their issue, about fundraising, an individual person, that you've monitored yourself so that you go into that meeting knowing that you're going to communicate to them the right attitude for them to adopt. So you need to be spending a little, or don't need to be, but you should spend a little bit of time looking over your information. Second thing is, giving is a neurological element, has a neurological element as well. We like to give. It makes us feel good. We see other people benefiting from our giving. So it's a neurological aspect. And to answer that question of, well, I don't know anybody, I'm afraid to ask anybody. Well, number one, that colors their interaction with anybody they may discuss. And then secondly, surveys have showed that people do want to give. They just need the right messaging in order to give. Yeah. So we'll delve a little bit more deeply in that in Dallas, but right now you may be dealing with the here and now. So you've got a committee member that says, I really don't know anybody. And let me back up a little bit. And you may have had an issue with not having all your plans in place to where, or your goals and objectives in place to where you can kind of take some of the emotion out of that. And there's a difference between passion and there's a difference between emotion. And so what we want to try to do is keep that passion by communicating with them in a very upright and very excited way, knowing that there is an emotional side of it too, but we can't live on emotion. I think that that's been proven time and time again. As you've experienced, you'll go into a meeting, you'll get all fired up, go out, as Jason was just mentioning, and then you kind of fall flat on your face. Well, what are some of those reasons? Most of the time, this is the primary focus that I would say, in my opinion, is that really fundraising tends to become about the ask. It really isn't about the ask. What it really is a relationship with that donor. Now, you may say, well, that's going to take time to build. Yes, it will. But at the same time, you have an opportunity to at least begin that relationship building. And if you haven't done so with your donors and with your committee members, that means meeting with them separately, talking about their goals and objectives. We're going to talk about the different communication styles. You've got to understand how they communicate, because if you go in with a certain type of communication skill and skill set, they may be on a completely different wavelength. So you may have some issues. For example, Jason is a doer. You don't go into a doer's office and go, let me take 45 minutes of your time to discuss our mission and discuss what we're trying to do as our goal. Yeah. That's really not going to work. So what happens? Well, that committee member or board member goes away from that meeting, or you go away from that meeting going, wow, man, I did everything I was supposed to do and we didn't get anywhere. Yeah. Well, it takes time to do that. So I would maintain that relationship building starts by understanding how that other person communicates. And that can be done very easily, either through surveys and or just talking to them on the phone. Is it easy to get them on the phone? When you talk to them, are they engaged with you on the phone, or when you're in a meeting? I will say some very easy ways. Let's take it, for example, and these are general, by the way, they're not necessarily spot on every time, but you can pretty much go into a doer's office and there's going to be stuff spread out all over the place. And you're going to know by sitting down in that office that this person is a doer. They don't want to spend 45 minutes because they don't think they have 45 minutes. So you want to adjust your discussion to the top end points that you need to make. But it is about relationship building and at least starting that. So while you might not be able to necessarily do that with your donors immediately, please try to start that relationship building with your board and committee now. And again, I'll go back to, this is not about the ask. It is about the opportunity to get that mission squarely communicated to those potential donors and givers at any kind of amount. Secondly, I think some of the aspects are, well, I have a fear of asking. So therefore, as I said, the theory of reciprocity kicks in and goes, well, if you're afraid of asking, then I'm afraid of giving, because I'm getting the impression that you're really not sold on what you do. So again, I'll go back to, it's incredibly important for you to determine how you're going to approach those meetings. And that does take some time, unfortunately. It's not just something you can walk into. I know you've been given a goal in most cases, and that creates that anxiety sometimes that, boy, if I go into that meeting and I don't receive anything back in return as far as a donation or a request, that's going to hurt my ability to reach my goal. And that creates some anxiety and some trepidation, and that obviously is shown to your potential clients. They also believe, I think right now, there's an opportunity for them to look at it and say, well, that's really your job as the fundraiser. Yeah, I can provide you with some names. I can provide you with some...
Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I want to just ask, who all here has ever heard, maybe not specifically said that, but gets that feeling from board members or committee members? Anybody here with a hand? I got 2. Yes. 4 or 5. So yeah, this is not an uncommon thing that you guys have heard. So thank you. Sorry, Randall, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to see if we're kind of hitting home here, and I think we are. So keep going, please.
Yeah.
And thank you, Jason, for that interruption. I tend to not ask those questions on a Zoom meeting, but I should. And a lot of times we run into the fact that committee members or board members, they discern that an ask is begging. Now, what happens there, I think, if you back up, is the fact that we've not done a great job of communicating our message or our mission to those potential board member and committee members. So in the here and now, you may not have done that, but now is the perfect time to really take a pause, even though you might be in the middle of fundraising efforts, meet with those people and remind them and just verify with them, validate that, hey, you understand what our mission is. That's really what we're asking about. We're not just asking for money. And I think that that's what we have done as fundraisers for too long. In many cases, is we've put pressure on ourselves by thinking that to ask for money is to beg for their help. And in reality, if you can create that, number one, confidence in your ask because it is related to your mission, and to explain and have a message for that board and committee member right now, until you have time to really build a better mousetrap, if you will, right now, to just touch base with those askers, if you will, and say, what's your mission? What's our mission? Here's some good things that you can present to a potential donor. Here's the things that we have done. And I just want to make sure this is me, the fundraiser. This is the fundraisee or asker. I want to make sure that you're confident with what we've done and how we're doing it and what these dollars will be able to allow us to accomplish.
Yeah.
Randall, I want to touch on that for
Jason
just a second. And the reason I do is because we've got somebody who's on the webinar who has seen this in real life, and Beverly can attest to this. We did an exercise with their organization. They're in Oklahoma. They're in Oklahoma. So they invited me to come down. I went down and just talked to them about this with their committee. And we did an exercise, and this is an easy, simple thing. And tell me if there's another way to get to this, Randall, please chime in. But I just went around the room and I said, what are we raising money for?
Yep.
And it was really interesting that, we had, 10 or 15 committee members in there. And Beverly, I don't remember exactly, but it was really tough for everybody to really say that they knew in a general way what was going on. We do this event, we raise money. This is the organization we work with, and we do do all these things. But it took them a while to get there because they had never really thought of it that way. And when we did was we distilled down the message so that it didn't matter if it was Randall, Jason, Trevor, Paula, Brian, Beverly, whatever. We're giving the same message, and it really simplified. And you could see the relief melt on people's faces because they knew what to say.
How important
I'm talking about
on the same page with that messaging. How important.
And I'm just talking about in 10 words or less being able to say, this is what we're doing. We're
elevator.
We want to send kids to camp.
Elevator speech.
Elevator all the time. We've expanded on that recently and called it. We had a great guest on the podcast that was really challenging people and nonprofits that he works with to say, what's your value proposition? I've heard Jason say this a lot, and I've taken this with me forever. This is what we've done, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're going to do. And that's what you were just talking about with the dollars, where the dollars are going, Randall, right? I think it sounds simple, super impactful. I love big picture, though. I just love how, we even know it as an organization, with our organization, if all of our messages are the same, you know what I mean? We're all moving in the right direction. There's no, there's no pull or what have you. We're not going to get off course. I think everyone being on the same page with that messaging is super duper important, right? And that has to, and you would probably recommend, both of you gentlemen would probably recommend that has to be set in stone or set in place early, correct?
Oh, yes.
Well, it literally, and I think that's where,
vital,
to Randall's point, this is something you can do today.
Yes.
Today.
Yes. Write it down.
This isn't something that you've got to go and due out later on, or, well, I've got to wait till next year. I mean, this is something you can do today, and start with yourself first.
Yep. There you go.
You know, start with yourself first. What is my mission?
First.
What is our mission? And distill it down to just a few words where I can start the conversation. Hey, you know, Beverly, what do you guys, you know, if I go to Bev, hey, Bev, what's going on? Yeah, tell me about it. Cause she goes, hey, I want to talk to you about our event. Yeah. Tell me what's going on. That's the key. That's the cue to start that conversation, because as where Randall's talking about, we're not begging for money ever.
No.
That is never. We're not on the street with a cardboard sign going, you know, anything helps, God bless, and whatever. That's not what you guys are doing. Mm-hmm. You have an important mission that is important to the community. It is invaluable to the community of what it does. Mm-hmm. Whether it's your local, state, nation, whatever that is, it's valuable. And if you believe that, now, if you don't believe that, well, then all bets are off, and we got to have a different conversation. When you believe in your mission and what you're doing, you're making an invitation for somebody else to participate with that mission. That's what it is. I'm not say, hey, Randall, this is Jason. Yeah, I'm putting some money together. I need you to give me 10 grand. Randall's going to go, what in the world are you talking about, dude? I'm not giving you 10 grand. Yeah, I got other stuff to do. Bye, click. But when you talk about the mission, hey, I know this is important to you, you know, or I believe this might be important to you, and this is what we're doing. And I'd like to have, you know, invite you to participate. Yep. Completely
invite you. I like that word, Jason.
Yeah, you know, it's right. So
we get this question a lot about competing for dollars in the community with other nonprofits. And it's a topic that we've discussed once again on the webinar, on the podcast as well. And we're going to talk about this in Dallas, as a matter of fact, where I'm kind of shifting the mindset from competition to differentiation, right? And our value proposition and the work that we're doing differentiates us and separates us in a good way from other organizations. People are giving to multiple organizations. That's just the donor landscape right now. And you're going to notice that's going to even increase over time with the new generations of givers, right? And folks that have the means to do so. They like to donate to multiple organizations, right? That just is the landscape right now. But the way that you differentiate yourself with this value proposition, and how you and how succinct your messaging needs to be, will be paramount to how you separate yourself from other organizations and the work that you're doing. So,
Trevor. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, brother. Yeah, I'm done.
Two things, or actually three things, I would bring up. Somebody mentioned in the chat about going along with someone, and I think as we talk about the here and now, that is a great thing to do, because if you're having trouble with your boards or committees, go with them. Make them accountable right now. You know, we've got a goal to raise, and you can help us a lot with that. I will come, and if there's any specific questions. The second thing is I really would like to steer you away from and I've experienced it, and Lord knows it's the easy way. I don't think it's the best way. It will always happen, but you will have somebody that is a really good fundraiser, and guess what they do? As I like to use the Jason phone. Hey, I am a member of this board, and you know, I gave your organization $10,000. You owe me $10,000 because I gave it to you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But if at all possible, make sure in the here and now, you're educating the people on exactly what Trevor talked about, differentiation or specificity of your mission and what you've accomplished and what you hope to. Now, I would tend to think in the here and now, we're going to focus on what have we done? Okay, over the last 5 years, every year now let's take the pandemic out of it, that, you know, unless you're the golf business exploded during the pandemic because everybody wanted to be outside. So, but everybody else let's take that out of it. But here's what we've done in the past. Over the last 5 years, we've gone up 10% every year in our giving. You don't want to be a part of a time when we're not successful. So revisit the past, but in the current, remind them of the mission and what those dollars will go for, not necessarily the fact that we're just asking for money. So that, again, that goes to starting that relationship with that board member or that committee member. Secondly, or thirdly, or fourthly, wherever I am, you know, I would ask you to ask them, in building for the future, something you can do right now is, hey, and I hate to use the word Joe, but let's just use Joe. Hey, Joe, you know, you are great. We really value your participation. Is there somebody like you that you know that we can visit with in the future that may have a same connection to this mission, or they can be educated to work for our cause? Because many times there are people outside of a particular issue that want to be involved with it because they understand the need for that particular effort. So I would say in the here and now, also make sure that you're planning for the future by visiting with that board or that committee member by saying, not necessarily about board service, strictly about fundraising. Do you know someone that's like you that you think you could invite to become a part of this? And then plug that away either on your notes, which I would have to do, or into your brain, as Trevor could probably do because he's still young, you know, so that you have that available for future reference as you start to develop your future plans. But it may be somebody right now that, you know what, I do have this person that really is a great go-getter. Go interview them right now. And if they're willing to get on board, don't wait. Get them on board. Now, you know, they're not going to be a board of director, but they dang sure can be a part of a committee, which is a proving ground, in my opinion, for the board positions. If they can't do it on a committee level, ain't no way they should be on the board. And pardon my bad grammar.
Hey, I want to just hit something real quick. I want to kind of go back to this messaging thing. And I think this is really critical for everybody to really grasp a hold of. I think we get this idea that our board members, based on the time of service, how they've been here, that they've got it all figured out.
Yep.
They don't. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you right now, they got just as many problems and stuff going on as you do. Yep. And you, as the professional fundraiser, somebody in the staff or somebody in, you know, running this fundraiser, this event, whatever it is you're doing, we get caught up in thinking, well, you know, if I call Trevor, or, you know, I call Beverly, I call Becky, they're so busy. They've got this stuff going on. You know, I just don't want to bother them because they're so important. That is hogwash. It is absolute total. It's a misunderstanding of people. And I just say, because and they may be busy, they may have stuff going on, but my experience, and I guarantee you Randle's and Trevor's and probably a lot of y'all, the people that do the most stuff can always do more. And they may think, I've had a full day. What's going on? They took your call. They took your meeting. Yeah. They're going to they will do that. And if you go there and you say, hey, Randle, I know you got a lot of stuff going on, but man, I need you to help me get these calls done.
Yep.
You know, we talked about it. We set it up. You said I just want to see where you're at. What can I do to help you?
All hands on deck.
They just need that reminder because they got stuff going on. They're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Man, I'll tell you what, I've got it on. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Put it in my calendar right now and I'll get that done tomorrow afternoon. You know, he talks about doers. I'm that guy. If you remind me and hold my feet to the fire, I will execute and get it done. But if you just let it go, and if I don't have it plugged in and right in front of me, I got 50,000 other things happening, you know, not to mention, you know, I've got kids and a grandkid and wife and, you know, stuff going on. And, you know, I got to get the yard guy to, you know, mow the grass and, you know, I got life going on. Yeah. And so everybody does. So don't be afraid like you're going to offend somebody by doing that, because you're not. I don't believe that at all. And I think we have to remind ourselves that I see a lot of people walk around on eggshells with board members and the staff. I've been on boards where that's what I saw the staff doing it. I'm like, stop. We're here to support you. Yeah. The board's job is to support the staff and the mission and do that. That doesn't mean they're up on high and they can't do anything. And sometimes they got to be reminded. And the last thing I want to just remind you, just because they've been there for 5 years doesn't mean they know what in the flip you do and they can converse with. They know what the mission does. They could, in a conversation, they can do it. Mm-hmm. But if they needed to raise money and pick up the phone and do that 10, they don't know. They couldn't do it. They'll do the thing. Well, we're a 501c3 and we're out here to help the world and better this and do that. And I've been on this board for 3 years, and I tell you, these people are really nice. And I mean, you got to help them. Yeah. And that's part of my help them help you, I guess, is kind of what this is about.
Yeah.
Becky's got a question.
Yeah.
On a hard conversation. Yeah. Tips on a hard conversation, saying that you're talking, taking something off a committee's plate and they aren't following through when they keep saying they'll get to it. Okay. I got what you're saying. So what you're saying, Becky, is Trevor keeps telling me, Jason, hey man, you said you're going to make those calls. You're going to get this done. You're going to, whatever it is, make that task. And I just go, yeah, man, I'm going to get it. But I don't. Then what is it? So Randle, you want to hit it first? How would you address that?
Taking something off their plate.
No, how do you say, look, Jason, you've said,
you're missing the mark.
You said you were going to do it. You haven't got it done. I got to get this done. So I'm just going to say, look, we're going to get this over here and take care of it. How would you handle that conversation?
Well, hopefully, even if you've got an executive director, if you're not one, that may not appreciate everything that you're doing, I think the opportunity is to go back and review the program of work for your organization and really emphasize the fact that if you don't help us out, if you can't help us out, we're not going to be able to match what we actually told the government we were supposed to be doing, if you will, because we're a 501c3. I wouldn't use that phrase either, as Jason has said, but I think the accountability issue, I also think in lieu of that, or in addition to that, a very simple thing that you can do is during this process, the here and now, take them some thank you notes and some people with their addresses and say, Mr. Committee, Mr. Board, would you write a couple of notes to these people and thank them? All you have to say is thank you for your help or thank you for your investment. However you want to word it to where it doesn't sound like you're begging, but get them to do something outside of the fundraising part of it to get them to see how important the fundraising side is. And I don't know if I necessarily made sense, but in the here and now, make sure that they are involved in some way. If you're having a struggle with them getting to complete a project, there's sometimes you're just going to have to say, okay, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Probably most of you have a calendar that says, sort of a project management calendar that says, here are our dates, our drop dead dates. Yeah. Mr. Committee, Mr. Board Member, as Jason said, don't be afraid to say, we're not meeting our goals and objectives based on this calendar. You probably already have that in place. So in the here and now, hey, we're missing some of our deadlines. How would you suggest that we accomplish what we need to accomplish? So while you're being the professional, you're also asking them to provide you what their definition of giving or support or asking may be. And in that, you may be surprised that it's like, well, I can't do 100 calls like you gave me, but I could do 3. Can you pick out 3 for me?
Yep.
Do that for, pick out some names for them. Can you call 2 people? Here's 2 people you can call today. Would you call them? You don't know them, but we vetted them. They're qualified. We just need your help as a professional, talking to this professional in a way that we can get that done. So 2 calls, that's all we're asking right now.
Yeah.
Becky, I want to go a different direction. I think that's a wonderful a strategy to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you a scenario and I'm going to tell you how they handled it in the effect that it had. So there's an organization. They got the president and the past president. They got, the secretary and the treasurer and all this, basically it's the board. Okay. And they had one of the people on the board, the communication chair, and everybody's checking their boxes. Everything's getting done, everything right across the board, 100%. Mm-hmm. Communication chair is not getting their stuff done, not showing up to the meetings, wasn't getting on the calls, wasn't doing the things that they had. And they were trying to do, if they checked all the boxes and did everything, well, they were going to get what was called rock star status. It had to deal within the national the global organization, basically. And it was a big deal. It meant a lot to the organization. Financially, it had tied a lot of stuff together. Well, I can tell you what they did. The the president and the president-elect of this organization picked up the phone and just called this board member and said, hey, got to have a tough conversation. We all agreed, we signed on, this is what we were going to do. You agreed, you said you were going to do it, and it's not happening. And we just, here's what's going on. We know you haven't made the calls, you haven't done this. Well, I can tell you what happened because I was the communication chair. I was the guy that wasn't getting it done. Mm-hmm. Well, what it did, that peer pressure that I did, number one, I was embarrassed. Okay. Not in a deal, they didn't shame me. They just were holding me accountable. I needed to be held accountable. I wasn't getting it done. Well, I'll tell you what it did. Got my butt in gear. I did what I was supposed to do. I got the check boxes. We got Rockstar, and it unlocked a potential because I really motivated me to make it happen, that we got the communication. We scored the highest in the communication deal in the world. Okay. It was a global organization, and we had the best. My point is, sometimes you just got to have a difficult conversation and say, hey, look, you said you were going to do this. You got to do it. I would not do, Becky. I think it would be a tragedy for you to do that by yourself.
Yeah.
I think if you're talking about the committee chair, then you got to get your ED to have this conversation, maybe somebody on the board. If you're talking about just somebody on the committee, you got to get the committee chair involved, and you need them.
So you're a good communicator, Becky, but yeah, I think Jason.
And the reason I say that, you need consensus, because if you do it, you're attacking something. When you've got other people coming with you, it's a consensus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it goes to that third party. It's a third party validation.
Yes. And so that's my tip, is have that conversation with someone else.
Yep.
This isn't a deal to shame somebody to do it. Hey, what's going for, because one things they did go is, hey, what's going on? Are you going to be able to get this done? Mm-hmm. I mean, they wanted to know, and this is a yes or no. It's a yes or no answer. And it's okay if you say no. We just need to know because we've got to take other action to make sure it gets done. Well, I was like, yeah, it lit a fire under me and I made it happen. And I've never forgot that. And it was something and so I really became a really good board member. And I came through, and if I said, I was going to do it, I got it done. Yeah. That's a lot of times what people need, because they just get caught up. They just get caught up in life. And that's all mine was. It wasn't that I didn't care.
Yeah.
And I believed in the mission. I believe we're doing. I was just busy.
Yeah.
And I just kind of put it off I didn't prioritize it. And, you got to get it in their priority.
And Jason, I would also add that in my experience, I very rarely did a ranking of the amounts. For example, if the Tulsa Gala for the Alzheimer's Association was the #1 gala in the country, raised $1.2 million. Bigger than LA, bigger than New York, bigger than Chicago, where the Alzheimer's Association is actually located. And why is that? Well, they did two things very well, in my opinion, or we did, was that we defined what we wanted to do, and we also identified future participants in the committee and board members. So I'll go back to my statement that, Jason, I would caution only Jason on Jason's point. You've got to understand how those people communicate. Jason, you can probably get in his face. It's pretty easy to get, because he'll take it the right way. But if you use the same tact that you use on Jason, you may find yourself with a little bit too much drama. So just be careful in how you do that. But I think that is very important. You have to hold them accountable, and they will hold it accountable. There is a fine line between staff driven and volunteer driven. And that's the magic of all these other things that go into the future, which is the planning, the messaging, and all that. The here and now is, let's address it. We need to move on. And if they're successful, then, give them that recognition. People don't get on boards to not have their ego stroked. I mean,
I was going to say it's definitely an ego boost or a shot.
So, but on conversely, you don't want to show up. I certainly don't, even though I have accidentally done that. Show up and a board member's got a big 0 by their name.
Yeah.
In a board meeting.
Everyone's
there's a list. Yeah. Now, while there's peer pressure, I would maintain that in answer to Becky, yes, that's the perfect time to take somebody with you. So for example, the number one fundraiser, maybe you identify them and they're the person that goes and talks with you to that other person. How are they doing it? What are they doing? What have they accomplished? What's their experience? What are some of the pitfalls? What are the words they use? Yeah. And you still come off as looking at the professional because you've identified that person to talk to.
I want to just lay on one more thing on that. One of the biggest mistakes that I think that happens in the nonprofit world professionally is, in that case where you as this paid professional or, whatever position you are. I know there's folks here that just do this volunteer. It's I'll just fine. I'll just do it.
Yeah.
I think that you enable people. Okay. This becomes an enabling culture, and the culture is what you set. If you set is that we're a bunch of doers and we kick butt and take names and we're going to raise money and we're going to do these things, that's the culture that'll be there. If you create this deal where, well, if I don't get it done, Becky will just do it. Yeah. Becky's she'll just fix it. Oh, Becky will get that. Yeah. Becky will just take care of it.
Becky's an overachiever.
That's what happens. And they'll start relying on that, and it becomes this, they've been able to do it. So they do it once, they do it all the time.
Yep.
Now that's kind of hard to break, but you can. And I want to give a couple of things just that I want to hit because we're kind of getting on the time, and there was a really important piece I think is really critical to what,
about the committee, about Becky's questions. So are we moving on?
No, this is really about, back to how do you get your folks to going?
Yeah. I mean, I think
what I would say is,
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say is you got to have a plan. You have to have a plan.
Yes.
And I'm going to use Randle's because he said this, so I'm going to get him to extrapolate on this. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan to execute the plan.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, with defined benchmarks, I believe in calendar deadlines and when people are going to get things done.
Yes.
And then you have to have a plan. And this is something that Randle said, and I've never heard it said like this, but it was perfect because I was like, oh my gosh, I've had people, I've seen this happen. A plan for when things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Not a plan B, but just a plan.
Not a plan. Exactly. So that's where we have a plan. If we have a committee member who's not taking care of things, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I like to do, this is just back to the thing. This is something I've done before. And I think we did this at Beverly's. Are you willing to be held accountable?
Yes. Early.
And you go around the room, and let me tell you something. Is everybody willing to be held accountable to these goals to make this stuff happen?
Yes.
And you find out when they raise their hand and they say, yes, I'm willing to be, that they're giving you permission to say, I'm just, reaching out, just want to make sure where we're at and doing it. You start it from the very beginning.
That
if you're in the middle of
early.
something,
yes.
If you're in the middle of something, but that way, because if something goes sideways, then everything blows up. And has anybody ever been a part of that where, we've got a committee, we have this going on, and then all of a sudden something happens and something bails, and it just kind of just ruptures the whole program, and we're all running around throwing water on ourselves, trying to put the fire out. We don't even know what the fire is.
I can't help but to think about when we've had Amy on talking about this. We're going to talk about it in Dallas, and she, a sweetheart of an individual, but very no nonsense, right? With the expectation, and lays it out in writing early, like first meeting, months and months and months and months and months, if not a year in advance of the event, right? Mm-hmm. So absolutely just lays it out, that they're very, very, put together at MDA, right? So they have all the the different part of my mind at the moment, just for lack of sleep or what have you. But it's like they have the decks, of all the expectations. It's in writing. Everyone agrees to it, like Jason says, early and often. And I'm going to hit this mark, this and that, and then you get the buy-in immediately. So then you have the agency to, I guess, for lack of a better term, question, right, or the approach, however delicate, because you're dealing with different communication styles and different individuals, like Randle keeps alluding to, which is a lovely, lovely point, right? About approachability and whatnot with these folks. Mm-hmm. But you get that buy-in early, and that gives you the agency to have these conversations later, right?
I want to just get, yeah, and that's so good. So I'm going to let Randle hit this one more point, but just if you've got any questions for it, please
got some
don't
last minute
hesitate.
questions,
Just put them
everybody.
in there. We're going to get, because we always stop on time. We got to give away something because we give away something every week. So Randle, talk about that part about planning for things when things don't go right or things get off the rails. Would you talk about that, kind of wrapping up? And if we get any questions, we'll make sure we address them.
Well, very quickly, I would never, I say never. I think it's critically important that you as fundraisers have like 2 or 3 very strong proponents of you as the professional. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of a side point from the actual fundraising itself, in my opinion, is that you have 2 or 3 people that really support and understand, I guess is a better way, what you need to take place. Yep. That is the group that develops the contingency plan. Because at some point, you really, in my opinion, you don't want to actually admit that there is a contingency plan. And there could be several contingency plans, i.e., what if the food doesn't show up at the right time? Well, this is what we need, So there's several, if it's a special event, there's several contingencies that you can build, but I would really look at a small group to develop those, because if you do it as a whole, then everybody has an opinion of what can happen next. And you really have the opportunity to run off the rails. But if you have a contingency in place with supporters that have already agreed to that, then if there's an issue with it, you've automatically got that buffer between those that go, well, why are we changing our direction? Or this is not being successful. Why are we going to do this? You've actually got people that will stand up and say, well, I totally agree with the direction that we need to head with this, or here's an additional way that we can do this, or hey, here's an idea. And it's not really an idea that was generated on the spot. It was something you had already addressed as that contingency plan. Mm-hmm. So you have those folks that can provide that buffer. And that, again, goes back to, you are considered more and more of a professional, in my opinion, if you talk about the things that can crap out. If you always talk about, oh me, oh my, this didn't go right, we're never going to be successful, that's out the window. We have everything planned out. Now, in the here and now, you may be at a point right now where it's like, we got to stop and kind of review our plans, if we have one, and review that, knowing that in the future, you can address that with some long range planning and some things on that nature. But in my opinion, it's the ability to have others that can kind of provide you that talking head, so that you don't get caught in the drama of being the person that is totally relied on if things go south.
I think that is really, really good, because I think that's so good. So is your suggestion that you would take like maybe the committee chair, maybe somebody, another committee, a couple of people that you have, and have that kind of powwow with them to say, hey, look, we need to talk about some things, and this just kind of get this, let's just, your core group that are the deal, and put this kind of plan together. Is that your suggestion on that? So, because I get not talking to everybody, because it just gets diluted down.
Yeah. Now, a 2-step approach, I think, Jason, is number one, 3-step. Obviously, talk to your ED if you have one, or if you are it, then that's it. Talk to the chairman of the board or whatever. Make sure they understand that there are those benchmarks that you need to hit in the here and now. And if they're not hitting it, then if the committee chairs the problem, here's how I would address it. I think I would pull a couple of very successful committee members in first, while at the same time talking to the committee chair and going, we're not really meeting our benchmarks, and like for you to think about this for a little bit. I'll be back in touch with you, and I want to get your thoughts. In the meantime, you're talking with these other 2 people who then can say, hey, I've been thinking maybe we can talk to these other 2. Would you mind if we come together and discuss maybe some contingencies? And I realize that it's like, the house is burning down and the idea is we got now to spend extra time, which we may or may not have, but it's critical that you say, okay, if the committee chair's the problem, then take those people in with the contingency plan already made and offer it to that committee chair if they're the problem. If the committee chair is great, then certainly have them lead the effort and maybe even identify who are those other two people we need to bring in. Because once they do that, they own that contingency development. If they're the ones picking the contingency developers, if you want to call them that.
Good. Awesome.
Love
Randle,
it.
thank you so much. I want to get to Bev's last question right there. It just says, what about the reverse? Jobs are assigned, the committee's doing it, but you got a board chair that takes over. I'm going to give you what I think. Okay. And I'd love Randle to hit it. Trevor can pop in. We'll give a real quick
one
deal.
more question.
Anybody's got any deals? I'll tell you, I think that's where you have to just have a conversation with them. Say, hey, look, I know that you're passionate. I know you care about this, but we need to develop some of our other folks, and we need to really let them have that ownership, because you're not going to be here forever, and we need to develop this, and we need to let them do it. And I know it's so important, and we don't want to squash your enthusiasm, but just use this as an opportunity to say, look, let us have you help them to do it, so that way they can be cultivated, because maybe one day they're going to be sitting in your chair and they understand how these things work.
Yeah, and I would just add on to that, Jason. Very good point. I would simply add on to that is that now, here and now, is the best time to ask them for the future person to sit in that chair.
Yeah.
So if you're having trouble with somebody that's wanting to run a committee, this is a subtle way of telling them you ain't gonna be chairman forever.
That's right.
And we'll make sure of that by you identifying who to replace you.
There you go.
And we'll put that on the list to have a discussion about in the future.
I hope that helped. I hope that helped. Sorry to cut you short.
No, that's fine.
I hope that helped with Noah's question. Noah had a question about term limits, quote unquote. I think that's a great idea. That was huge feedback, actually, because you're empowering them to help find their replacement. That's awesome. Perfect, Noah. Thank you for the response, brother.
And Noah, that's a great thing to look at in the future. A perfect thing and absolutely necessary.
And then Noah had a follow-up about prevent stagnant members of the dreaded. This is how we've always done it, brother. It's so funny. Jason and I just did a podcast on that. It'll probably be released next week. Hey, Nonprofits Raise More Money. Check that out. Really, really good. The hey, we've always done it this way approach to fundraising is so late and so old and archaic at this point. It is not working, and we've got the data to prove it. So that goes all the way to the board and the committee as well. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't mean to push everybody, but we got to get up here. I got to give something away, and I want to just do one thing. If you want to talk more about this, please email Randle at hgafundraising.com, Jason at hgafundraising.com, Trevor at hgafundraising.com. We're here to help you to do this. We'll spend the time to walk through this. Maybe you've got a specific situation. Randle has a tremendous amount of experience steering, navigating, doing this with lots of personalities and all that stuff. So I think it's really good to get that. So it'd be great to do that.
I put my email in there because my name's spelled a little different than a normal Randle. So
he'll be on the email when we send out this tomorrow. So it'll be there as well. We've got a winner. We've got a winner. I got to get this drawn so we can wrap. And thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Let's do it again.
Paula Langby.
Look forward to seeing you in Dallas.
All right.
Or is it Langby? I'm not sure, Paula. I may have totally messed up your name, but Paula, you just won something.
Right on.
You won a trip that you can use in your next fundraiser and to raise more money.
Cool. Right on, Paula. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll see you next Thursday. Sign up for the boot camp if you haven't already. If you can make it in April, check out the podcast. Hey, Nonprofits Raise More Money. Randle, thanks a ton.
Hey, I'm gonna throw a quick teaser.
Yeah, no, let me add one little thing.
Yeah, please.
I really crave constructive criticism. So if I'm off on anything, or if there's anything that you want to add, that since you since you are the professional, please email me and let me know that.
Awesome. Thanks, Randle.
And
that's great, brother.
Just one more deal. He just on here and he's doing this. So we've got another member of HJ. He's going to be here next week. We're going to be talking about volunteers, how to corral, motivate, and herd your volunteers. So Matt Ashley will be joining us next week. So excited about that.
Fundraising partnership.
See everybody next week.
Next Thursday, episode 107. Have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend. Thanks a ton, everybody.